Hello and welcome back to Season 5 of the NMMA. We had a very exciting deadline with Locke adding both Amari Stoudemire and Rodney Stuckey to LeBron's arsenal. The New York Knicks moved off of several of their veterans, officially kicking off their rebuild. And the Charlotte Hornets added Darren Williams, an over 90 overall player, to their struggling team to amass assets and hopefully advance their rebuild. So let's go ahead and jump into the standings and take a look. All right, so starting off in the East, the Orlando Magic still sit atop the standings with 39 wins and a plus 11.4 differential, good for the best in the East. However, the Atlanta Hawks are not far behind with just 0.5 games back, just a single loss more with a plus 8.8 differential. They changed their system up a little bit, and that seems to be working pretty well. So Cookie may be coming in for that one seed in the final sim. We'll see. The Cleveland Cavaliers, high haters, is not far behind as well with 37 wins. And this starting five has remained very tight for the past few seasons. And with a plus 10 differential now, they are good for the second best differential in the East. And rounding out this extremely competitive top four are the St. Vincent St. Mary Fighting Irish, Locke's new look LeBron team with Rodney Stuckey here and Amari Stoudemire at the five. This team is looking very impressive with a plus 9.7 differential, I believe improving from last year. That is good for third best in the East. So it's kind of crazy that Cookie's actually sitting in the 2 seed. Very tight race between all four teams there. I expect all of them to make the second round. In the 5th seed, with 32 wins, not too far behind, the Philadelphia 76ers continue to impress. What can you say about this team? It was assembled quite well. I was sort of doubting their spacing when the trades were originally made, but Tequila has proven me wrong. And although they only have a plus 1.3 differential, they've maintained this 5 seed now for 2/3 of the season. Sitting in the 6th seed, the Detroit Pistons have worked out some of their chemistry issues after bringing in ISO Joe. And they have improved to a 31-21 record with a plus 4.7 differential, good for 5th best in the East. They're looking to be a pretty strong playoff team. I kind of expect them to overtake that 5 seed. Next, the Chicago Bulls. They made a trade, I believe, for, who was it? Yeah, Andrew Bynum for a backup big for them. Very important piece, and I think they're still working out some chemistry issues, but at 31-22, they are probably a lock to be a playoff team as well. The New York Knicks, big surprise here, although they have a negative point differential, and they're below 500, after moving off of several veterans. They moved off of Manu Ginobili, Delonte West, Daquan Cook, Darren Williams, Linus Kleiza, Myers Leonard, all of these players. They should have just dramatic chemistry issues, and yet they improved by 2 seeds to the 8 seed. Impressive stuff. So who knows? They may be able to make a little bit of a playoff run despite being deep in the rebuild now. The Miami Heat, the benefactor of New York finally blowing it up, brought in both Manu Ginobili and Daquan Cook and are sitting in the 9 seed. Not only that, but also Kevin Martin. Impressive moves here, and are now slotting Kevin Durant and Zach Randolph over one slot into the 4 and the 5, playing somewhat small ball here. They are still the 9 seed, but that means that they have not gotten any worse despite these rather dramatic changes to their chemistry. So they'll probably be in that play-in race. I don't think that they're going to overtake the Bulls or the Pistons to be a lock for a playoff spot, but we'll see what happens. The Toronto Raptors have gotten a little bit worse. They were the 8 seed before, and now they are the 10 seed. But they're still a play-in team and still impressive, better than we were expecting. Jonas Valanciunas continues to be an impressive part of this team. The New Jersey Nets are the 11 seed. Not much to say here. Davis Bertans, though, is, as you'll see later, in the most improved player race. So that is great news for the Games. With 17-34, just one game back from the Nets, the Wizards are in the 12 seed. Not much to say about this team. Joel Embiid is having an extremely strong rookie season, and he looks to be their franchise player moving forward. So, I mean, this team has a bright future. The Indiana Pacers have fallen to the 13 seed. Probably not a bad thing, because, I mean, they could stand to add another lottery pick to this team. Very curious to see if they continue to hold Josh Smith. They added a new co-GM with TJG. Welcome to the league. And Nikola Jokic is putting on a Rookie of the Year run. Next in the 14 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks with a 10-42 run. What can you say? They are definitely deep in the lottery, and that is exactly where RJ wants to be. And finally, rounding things out, the deep struggles of the Charlotte Hornets continue. They brought in Darren Williams, but that was not enough over these past 15 games. They are on a 15-game losing streak and do not own their pick, not just this year, but also the next two. So very curious to see how the very diligent Dilks navigates this dark time. Moving over to the West, the Houston Rockets did get a little bit worse. They have a little bit worse of a defense and a little bit worse of an offense. We started Gordon Hayward over PJ Tucker to see what happened there and to get a little bit more minutes for Gordon Hayward. And it seems like that did not work out. However, we're still 44-7. No complaints here. Best differential and record in the league. The Denver Nuggets, however, just one game back with just two more losses with a plus 18.6 differential. They are hot on the Rockets' tails. And Draymond Green really seems to be key to this team being even better than last season. Moving up to the 3 seed, very impressive stuff from Shane. The Minnesota Timberwolves are sitting at 36-19 with a plus 7.2 differential. I think good for the 4th best in the West. And this team's defense is the real deal. This is not a team that any competitor wants to face in the playoffs. They are going to be absolutely devastating. And I think they have improved to not quite the best defense in the league at 94.7. They're just 0.4 worse than the Denver Nuggets, but they have improved, and they are looking on the up and up. The Sacramento Kings are sitting in the 4 seed with 34-20. Not much you can say about this team. They move off of David Lee, bringing in, I forget who. Oh, AK-47 and Aaron Aflalo, who was suspended for this past sim. But now that he's going to be coming back, this team is going to be looking to be even better. The San Antonio Spurs are sitting in the 4 seed still. Strong team. Eric Bledsoe putting up most improved player numbers, and Tobias Harris having taken a leap. This team was a perennial 9 seed prior to this season, and now that they are clicking, I don't see that changing for seasons to come. The Los Angeles Lakers, unfortunately, have fallen just a little bit to the 6 seed. They have a little bit of defensive struggles, and that offense is not clicking the way that it did last season. However, I think that this is going to be a playoff rising team with both Ajinça and Garnett starting. That is just a lot of defensive flexibility. This is a very switch-heavy team, and Kobe Bryant continues to just be absolutely dominant well into his greater years. The Utah Jazz are sitting in the 7 seed. Not a ton to say about them. They have not made any sort of dramatic changes this season. Oh, they did bring in George Hill, it's true. So curious to see what happens for them. Golden State Warriors are sitting in the 8 seed at 27-26. They have just a barely positive point differential, but Klay Thompson and Dirk Nowitzki seem to be clicking very well together. And yet again, I kind of think that this could be a playoff rising team. Time will tell. Sitting in the 9 seed, the Phoenix Suns, although they are deep in the play-in, and that may not be exactly where Jay Walsh wants to be after he's had back-to-back playoff appearances. Both Dwayne Wade and Kendall Marshall, both of their backcourt members, are number 1 and number 3, respectively, in the Clutch Player of the Year race. So this is another team that is going to be a fourth quarter riser, and you got to think that they are going to be very good to come the playoffs if they do actually retain a spot there. Moving down to the 10 seed, the Oklahoma City Thunder. After moving off Amari Stoudemire, they had a little bit of an experiment bringing in Tony Parker and Amari in the offseason. Didn't really work out, but they're still a play-in team by just a little bit, and C.J. McCollum is looking quite good for them. Down to the New Orleans Pelicans in the 11 seed. I'm kind of shocked that they have been struggling as much as they have. I know that they lost Tyson Chandler last season, and that does hurt, but this Chris Paul and Chris Bosh, the Chris pick and roll, you would think that it would continue to be very successful. And those two players are great, but this team probably needs to make some tweaks. Next, the Vancouver Grizzlies. They have made no major changes this season, and it is kind of showing. They are stuck in that 12 seed. I don't know if they have their pick or not this season. I hope that they do, because adding a lottery pick to this team with Russell Westbrook and Batum would be huge for them. Seattle Supersonics. They are looking to have an amazing offseason to come, because they are not only the owner of their own lottery pick that is likely to convey to something very good, but also the Hornets. And so this is a team that is deep in the tank right now, but give it a couple seasons and this could be the super team in the future. Keep an eye out for them. The 14 seed Portland Trailblazers, after having Brevin Baker suspended for the last sim due to a gambling issue, They remain the 14 seed. However, Brevin Baker is going to return better than ever, getting a boost to both his free throws and three-pointers. He has remained in the gym, just getting those shots down during a suspension. So this team is going to be looking very bright for the future. And rounding out the West with a negative 13.2 differential, the Dallas Mavericks are at the very bottom of the West. And I think it's good that they're doing even worse than last season, because they are looking at one of the best odds for a high lottery pick going into this draft. And it would be huge if they could bring in either Cat or KP. So time will tell. We'll see what happens there. Let's go and take a look at team stats now. All right, first sorting by points per game. Unsurprisingly, the Rockets are well ahead of everybody else with 120.9. Kind of shocking that the Warriors are that high as a play-in team, but that just goes to show that that Clay and Dirk duo is just absolutely devastating offensively. They could probably stand to add a defender or two and make a little bit of a playoff run. Don't forget that they did take Denver to 7 in the first round last year, almost advanced against them, and that is just incredible. For the fewest points allowed per game, unsurprisingly here, the two best defenses, Nuggets and Timberwolves, they are just absolute ball stoppers. And for offensive rating, Rockets and Nuggets up top, unsurprisingly. You see the Hawks are listed higher here than their points per game, and the Warriors are listed lower, so that kind of does indicate that the Hawks are underperforming a little bit offensively and could be even better, and that the Warriors are probably overperforming a little bit. Now, that doesn't mean that that actually will change. It just could mean that their clutch numbers are a little bit better or worse, but we'll see if that ends up regressing to the mean. And for the best defenses, Nuggets, Rockets, Magic, and Timberwolves, the absolute best defenses in the league, just without any question. And for point differentials, Rockets and Nuggets remain just head and shoulders above the rest of the league. It's looking like we're going to have yet another Western Conference Finals matchup that is going to be must-watch for the stream. Not a lot of absolutely terrible point differentials as we've had in past seasons. You can see we only have 3 that are below negative 12. Okay, and for three-pointers made, unsurprisingly, the Warriors led by Klay Thompson. That'll get you a lot of threes. Followed by the Cavs with James Harden, and the Rockets. All just spectacular spacing teams. See how that's going to carry over to the playoffs soon enough. And for three-pointer percentage, about the same. The Jazz are impressively quite a bit higher in three-point percentage than they are in three-pointers made. So they could probably stand to turn up that shot tendency a little bit or bring in another volume shooter. Yeah, 385 is pretty great. And we'll show rebounds. The Magic a tick above the rest. Unsurprising with all the great rebounders they have, especially between Biyombo and Love. That is a team that can stand to chuck because they will catch all the misses that come off the rim. And for most assists, Magic, unsurprising with Rubio, Nuggets and Rockets with the double backcourt. Ton of great playmaking for the Fighting Irish too. No big surprises here. And what did we show before? Steals? Yeah, go ahead. And blocks. You guys just let me know if you have any sort of requests for what team stats to show here. Is going more in depth in this is a little bit of a new addition to these videos. Hawks, unsurprisingly, continue to lead the league. Kind of crazy that the Suns are number 2 there. I don't know who's getting all the blocks for them. I guess Larry Sanders and Gortat does get some. Okay, now going down to league leaders. Oops. Kevin Durant has retaken his crown. He is leading the league in points per game, only 26.9 points per game, which is kind of surprising considering he was over 30 just a few seasons ago. But a lot of that is the fact that they brought in Manu Ginobili and Kevin Martin, who are taking quite a few more shots. But that is still a great sign for them. They have a lot of scorers in that starting five, and now that they're playing small ball, they may be a dominant force. Very curious to see if they end up securing a playoff spot. For rebounds, we have Kevin Love and Zach Randolph leading, unsurprisingly. No big shocks here. I guess Josh Smith being at 11.2 rebounds, still number 9 in the league at this age, despite all the struggles that the Pacers have had. That is kind of impressive. And yet again, we have 4 players who are in the double-digit assist tier. Wall, now Bledsoe still, Paul and Rondo. Very impressive how Bledsoe has stepped up his game during this season. If he can continue being a double-digit assist player, like that Spurs team really could have quite a run in one of these coming seasons. And for steals, it looks like we have 5 players who are over the 2 steal per game mark. Big shout out to Conley. Kind of surprised that Nate Lopez Seneschal is not even higher, although it does seem like he's only playing 28 to 29 minutes per game. So that probably is contributing. And for blocks, DJ leading. Rudy Gobert has continued to not return to his just astronomical block status of his rookie season. Not a huge shock there because they did sign so many veterans, and so they may be clogging the front court just a little bit, but curious to see if he does return to those heights. And for field goal percentage, Kobe Bryant remains in the top 10. He has fallen off just a little bit as he was at like .57, which would have been good for 3rd in the league after Sim 1. But, you know, you cannot be mad. Shout out to Mar DeRozan also in the top 10. It's impressive that these 2 very high-volume shooting guards are that efficient. And for three-point percentage, the Rockets have fallen off quite a bit. We had 2 of the top 3 slots, but now Ryan Anderson and PJ Tucker are down to 5 and 6. And for the three-pointers made, we're now up to 7 players who are over that 3 three-pointers made per game threshold. People continue to take more and more shots from beyond the arc. Okay, let's take a look at the rookie report now. Yeah, what can you say? Zach LaVine at 24.7 points per game. He has maintained his absolute scoring dominance in his rookie season, which, I mean, is not crazy to say because there really aren't that many primary scorers on the Sonics, but that is just looking great for his future. He's getting every shot imaginable, and that is going to be very important for his progression. Joel Embiid maintains being the only rookie who is over that 10 rebounds per game threshold. And Nikola Jokic leads all rookies ahead of 4 point guards following him in assists per game, and he is leading by 2 assists per game over the number 2 spot. That is just crazy. 8.9 rebounds and 8.9 assists. Jokic is going to be every bit as good as he is in real life, and he's going to be that good a lot earlier. Huge, huge, huge for the Pacers. Shout out Shabazz Napier as one of the best perimeter defenders among rookies. Marcus Smart has also stepped up his steals after being traded from the Hornets. And Joel Embiid, unsurprisingly, leading rookies in terms of blocks. Nurkic and Grant at 1.2 is really not that bad. Especially with that Spurs team being relatively deep. All right, now let's take a look at picks. Remember, this is up to date with any of the trades that happened before Sim 2. As always, remember to be reversing Trailblazers and Fighting Irish picks. So this 2017 Trailblazers pick is actually going to be based on where the Fighting Irish fall. But after 2018, that will be the names will match. Tons of picks for the Nets, especially seconds. Curious to see if they just continue to rebuild through the draft or if they end up spending those picks on bringing in some star that hits the trade block. The Games has been managing this rebuild quite well. Tons of picks for the Supersonics, including those extremely valuable Hornets picks. Blazers loaded, especially now with the boosted Brevin Baker. And the Wizards to round things out. All right, next, let's take a look at cap sheets. Let me make sure that the salary cap is turned off. Make sure to update your sheet. Just 15 minutes per sim, and you should have your sheet absolutely up to date. And then once we enter the off season, things will be able to move a lot quicker. Just buttloads of cap space for the Bucks here. Granted, they are so deep in the tank that it may be kind of hard to sign some free agents, but time will tell, especially next season, because it seems that they aren't going to have any sort of major paydays before the end of next season. So maybe they will have some time to trade into or sign somebody with all their cap space. Please be letting me know. Please let me know if any of the dead cap listings are inaccurate, because sometimes 2K does bug and it stretches out the dead cap more than it should. That won't count against you. I just want to make sure that I exclude it from the sheet, or exclude it from the sheet yourself. It's really just Boogie on a big contract for the Kings here. They could very well manage their cap to make a decent signing, especially as a 4 seed. That expiring Kevin Garnett contract for the Lakers is a big question for them. Very curious to see what they do. Between that and Lamar Odom, I don't know if they could free up cap space, so they probably want to retain them, but who knows? Maybe they do. Maybe they're just a trade away from opening up cap space to get someone to sign and properly retool around Kobe. A lot of money falling off the books for the Nets, and while they are rebuilding, they are an 11 seed, which may be good enough to sign somebody. We'll see. Ton of money falling off the books for the Pacers, as well as the Pelicans here. They just recently extended Chris Bosh, taking off a very coveted free agent from the market in this upcoming offseason. Just buttloads of cap for the Raptors, too. And they are pretty well locked as a play-in team, especially if they continue to succeed in Sim 3. So maybe they're going to be good enough to make a little bit of a run and sign somebody in free agency. So many minimum contracts here for the Suns. They could be looking at a very different squad next season. Blazers have cap space right now, and they have about 24.5 million fallen off the books after Elton Brand and Josh Richardson expire. It's a lot of flexibility coming up for them. Although I do think that Brevin Baker payday is pending for them. Okay, and moving into player stats. Brook Lopez still leading scoring for the 5 seed Sixers. No 20-point per game scorer for them, though. Chris Middleton leading scoring for the Bucks, despite only playing like 24 minutes per game. Funky team here. Blake Griffin, 23.5 points per game, 13 rebounds, 4.8 assists. Just a dominant offensive force. Kind of shocked that the Fighting Irish defense isn't even better. I mean, Stuckey is a plus defender. LeBron James is not just the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, but looks like he might repeat. Roy Hibbert, excellent defender. Who else? Oh, Tim Duncan, of course. No longer a DPOY contender, but still an excellent player. Three 20-point per game scorers for the Magic, almost four. Man, this team is looking as good as ever, and very curious to see if they make it to their fourth consecutive finals. I don't know the last time we've had a team do that. Tyson Chandler, 4 points per game, 12 rebounds per game. That is a specialist if you've ever seen one. Huge season for Jonas. Incredible stuff. 17.6 points per game, 11.4 rebounds. Blocks could be a little bit better, but he's looking like an excellent offensive center. Victor Oladipo, man, despite not having any prog, 45% from the field is not terrible. 19 points per game is excellent. And that 1.4 steals per game, also great. He may be having some like goated tendencies here. Okay. Now, let's take a look at contract extensions. Remember that you only get 2 contract extensions to do in every regular season, so make sure not to exceed that. Then you get 1 in the offseason. Wow, Kevin Garnett wants $14.88 million. That is a big contract for the old man. Probably worth it, though, to retain him for a season or 2 as they try to contend. Josh Smith willing to rejoin the Pacers. Very important, loyal showing for Bobby and the new co-GM, TJG. Joe Johnson showing some loyalty for the Pistons. That's big for them. Dirk, not willing to resign just yet, but he does have 2 years on contract, so no big issue for them. Okay, and now let's take a look at award races. That is my cat meowing. Okay, so leading the MVP race, unsurprising here, now that he is no longer a 6th man of the year, but a starter for the Nuggets at 26 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 8 assists. Derrick Rose is probably going to be running away with this because although they're the 2 seed, the 1 seed Rockets at 19 points per game, I don't think that John Wall is going to cut it. LeBron James, very impressively, is back in the MVP race after several seasons off. And at, what is that, 19, 8 and 8, and just extremely good defensive numbers. You know, he could make a run, but I kind of doubt that the Fighting Irish are going to be overtaking either the Nuggets or the Rockets in terms of wins. Number 4, Steph Curry. The Nuggets have 2 representatives here. That is just incredible. And rounding it out, Blake Griffin, despite being a 7 seed, you can't argue with 24 and 13 with 4.8 assists from a front court player. That is just incredible stuff. Rookie of the Year, and Nikola Jokic is kind of running away with it. Zach LaVine, probably not too far behind because he is scoring just like a madman with 24.7 points per game. I don't even remember how good that is for all scorers in the league, but he's got to be in the top 25, probably in like the top 10. But Nikola Jokic, you can't argue with 8.9 rebounds and 8.9 assists from a center. That is just crazy stuff. And with 1.2 blocks as well, way better than you would expect from him in real life. I think he's going to be running away with Rookie of the Year. Joel Embiid and Nurkic and Clint Flores all get good shout-outs here. Clint Flores did miss the second sim due to the gambling suspension, so that'll probably hurt his Rookie of the Year race a little bit, but, you know, I don't think he's going to be overtaking these top players anyway. And for 6th man of the year, Tyreke Evans is looking to repeat yet again with another 6th man of the year. He is clearly the Jamal Crawford of this era. But Damian Lillard, ever since he has been benched, I don't think he's going to be overtaking him because, he doesn't lead in any stats here. But that is still an extremely strong outing with 17 and 6. Anthony Bennett is a great defender off the bench, too. Big shout out to him. I think he's a huge reason behind their success. And for Defensive Player of the Year, LeBron James, man, just continues his streak of dominance. If he repeats as DPOY, who even cares if he's in the MVP race? He has really turned around things after struggling for quite a few years, and Locke cannot be upset about this. Serge Ibaka in number 2, 2.6 blocks per game is absolutely going to do that. And that has put him pretty firmly ahead the 5-time in a row DPOY Dwight Howard, who is looking like he is entering a new era of his career and is probably not going to be at the top of the defensive race. DeAndre Jordan and Josh Smith round out a pretty good list here. Kind of shocked that Anthony Davis is not on the list. For most improved player, Kendall Marshall running away with this, honestly. I thought that it was going to be Eric Bledsoe, but 19.7, 5.5, 5.5, 1 steal, and 1.2 blocks as a point guard? Man, those are crazy stats any way you cut it, even if this wasn't just a most improved player race. But big shout outs to Dennis Schroeder, Davis Bertans, and Terrence Ross. Impressive how he has stepped things up. I mean, honestly, 11.9 points per game, and that's pretty much all he's bringing to the table. It may be kind of a shallow race here, but still nice to see his name in there after some controversy. And for Kia Clutch Player of the Year, as you can see here, the big news is both of the members of the Suns' backcourt are at number 1 and number 3 here. Unsurprising that Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin are in there, but kind of crazy that Dennis Schroeder, as I think a sophomore, 22 points per game, 6 assists, and despite being the 15 seed, the Mavs have got to be happy to have him. Okay, and then we're going to be taking a look now at All-Star votes. Derrick Rose, unsurprisingly, leading the West backcourt here. Kind of crazy to me that John Wall, despite winning MVP and back-to-back Finals MVPs, is still only at 6. But Chris Paul's got a lot of name power. And for the front court, Paul George is now leading the Western front court. Impressive stuff. Dwight under Dirk. Call me a homer, but that's a little bit ridiculous to me. And for the Eastern Conference in the backcourt, big shout out Brandon Jennings. Rodney Stuckey in the All-Star race is quite impressive. He's just a great do-it-all guard and a huge acquisition for the Fighting Irish. As you see, both of the Fighting Irish acquisitions here are in the All-Star race. Unlikely that either of them will make it, but still very important for them. LeBron with 2.5 million votes thus far. All right, so the next deadline is TBD, but it's probably going to be Thursday. Just trying to hammer out exactly when I can host the Sim3 stream. And so there is going to be a stream. We are going to be watching, 5 to 7 games or so, probably just the fourth quarters. So make sure to get your trades in by Thursday, but there's a chance that it'll pour over into Friday. And a huge, huge thank you to C-Man for running this sim and doing all of the inputs. I've had a very busy past couple of days, and so I greatly appreciate all the effort that he and the other mods have been putting into this. So, happy trading.